Hey, good morning. I'm back with another video. Let me see what time it is. It is 9:36. It's April 18th, and I am just hanging out in my room, getting ready to start my day. I mean, actually, my day is officially started, but it's not like I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. Like, I know it looks like it might rain. And I'm like, okay, I really don't want to go to the library if it's going to be raining. I enjoy the light, the sun that comes through the library window. So I do need to go get some groceries at some point today. So, I'm just deciding what to do. I have, like I said, the more I'm working on my moral reset, the more I start thinking about other issues that I feel need to be added to the moral reset. And I know people perceive me to be nerdy, and, I suppose there's some truth to that. And I get the feeling that my entire family thought that of me as well, and this is one of the reasons why they used to roll their eyes at me when I would talk. But hey, I don't regret anything. I decided to just have one slide for this particular video, and I decided to use this image of spy versus spy. Now, growing up, I would say that yes, I did display an intelligent side, meaning I would talk about serious subjects. But like I said, most of the time, when I would try to talk to other people about stuff, they would shut it down, ignore me, roll their eyes, tell me who did I think I was, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, everyone knows that I was I was a very silly kid. Like, I loved jokes. I loved telling jokes. I liked cartoons. I liked living. I really indulged in all those fun things. I used to not watch, but I used to listen to the Dr. Demento show. And when I was about 10 years old, I would get my allowance money and I would go and buy things like Mad Magazine. And these characters right here are spy versus spy, and they would appear in that magazine. And I remember, I remember, when I lived over on I Street, which wasn't too long ago. I think I moved over on I Street, close to the Albertsons off of Chester. I think and Brundage, I guess. It was, I think, 2017 through 2019, somewhere around the time where I started working over there in Buttonwillow, right? And I had this neighbor, and she was always wearing, like this black and white ensemble. And I remember the first time I saw her, I thought she looked cool, really. And I remember telling her she reminded me of Spy versus Spy, but she never saw it. So if she does see this video, this is what they look like. They were just cool. I mean, I'm referring to the clothes. I mean, she didn't look like that in her face, but she just wore a lot of black and white, and I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, I wanted to come on here because, I've been thinking a lot about some of the videos that I've been posting, and my mind is just like really, really, really overworking right now on just ideas, thoughts about spirituality, thoughts about the afterlife, thoughts about, the evil that a lot of us have experienced, you know, um, and I know I'm sounding nerdy, okay, but I cannot get over the whole Archon thing, the control and the covert nature of it, and this is what so makes it so insidious. This is what makes it so dark, because it's a part of a mind control program, whether these people realize it or not. And I know that there's a Nazi connection. There's also a Mormon connection, and and it's unfortunate that so many people can get misled into these sort of things, and it's very, very, very depressing. So I was thinking, how the Earth dwellers, and I refer to Earth dwellers, people who want to continue on being clones. And like I said, cloning, even though cloning has been used for bad things, it doesn't mean that you can't turn around and make positive things about it. I just think that a lot of times clones get dehumanized, okay? So if people are going to continue, and I know the white agenda is very much focused on, the population, and I've heard some of these videos and I've been listening. Okay, I've been listening. I don't spend a whole lot of time on this subject. But when I'm working on my projects or I need a little bit of break, I have been kind of going on Facebook and Instagram, and some of these videos are catching my attention. They get into my newsfeed. Okay, so I've been watching it, and I see a lot of white women talking about what's been going on in the workplace, or people approaching them and this sort of stuff. Okay, because these undercurrents or these covert programs could still be trying, still trying to, work their little way into influencing people and forcing people into doing stuff, okay? Because this is how it works. And a lot of times it works in ways of how they communicate with you. Okay, but before I talk about, how they communicate with you, I wanted to talk, really address the issue of the Earth Dwellers' love of the monetary system, okay? And I said, I look at money as a means to an end, okay? I have to pay my rent, you know what I mean? I have to do things, we spend money on our utilities, we spend money on gas, we spend money on food, our requirements. And yes, we are entitled to a few little goodies, a trip to the dollar store, okay? We don't need to get our lives threatened over, like, going out and buying a pencil case for $1.25. But, I was dealing with a lot of ridiculous bullying, okay? But Earth Dwellers do love the monetary system. This is one of the reasons why I do think they make an effort to acquire corporations, and then I do believe that they view marriages as some sort of legal whatever, and this is maybe one of the reasons why, they were always debating about, a single woman entering to the workplace, because they use people and see people as commodities and basically slaves, okay? And I understand that, in their mind, okay, to spread their domination, they literally want to destroy people. They want to enslave people. They want people to be under their control to create their idea utopia, okay, which is them being on the top and everybody else being slaves. I mean, and this is not just, I'm thinking of this in ways of where they feel like they have all the power. Now, why I'm saying this is because I've been watching a lot of white women videos, okay? Them talking about, the whole Project 2025 thing. And, and then a lot of men are talking about the subject of rape, women wearing clothes, looking attractive, and living for themselves, especially when they're in situations where they have to be, okay? And I'm trying to see this from a perspective, okay? Because I know that there's some in Eastern religions that, believe that men are going to have like women in heaven, and like loads of them, myriads of them, and they're there for their pleasure, okay? And so I do believe that a certain element of that kind of desire is an undercurrent in some of this. Like when they're talking about what women are wearing, I remember hearing a girl who was talking about growing up in a fundamentalist church, and them talking about, how they cannot resist the women and blah, 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 blah. So therefore, women have to suffer because men don't have any self-control. It's like, what I don't like about some of these people is that they do not take any accountability for their own actions. And this is why I'm talking about things like the law, okay? Because the legal system is already going to put that into place, okay? This woman has the right, she's over the age of 18, and her parents, when you're a minor, you're under the guidance, I'm going to say guidance of your parents, okay? But, we have adult women who are being enslaved by people, and they're using an excuse of, well, I can't control myself. There is a system for people who cannot control themselves, and that's called the prison. Okay? If you are somebody who feels like you have the urge to rape somebody, and I'm going to tell you, a lot of men do have these fantasies. They do. They have this fantasy of dominating women and enjoying, like, harems of women. I'm telling you how it is. We're talking about sexuality a little bit too, and power and all of the other stuff, okay? It does play some sort of role into it, because they do look at this as pleasurable, and they do look at, I'm talking about some men, okay, and I'm not painting all of them, but some of this does drive their desire to be on top. It's always like, this is what a little bit, or a little, I'm touching on the subject of sexism, okay, a little bit, okay, but that and women having financial control over their own lives threatens men. You know what I mean? Especially when a woman is established, she's smart, she's talented, and she has, like, an education or whatever. These people are, wanting to squash that out. And, and force themselves on you, and in this sort of agenda plan, okay? And like I said, I do not hate all white men, but there is some sort of strange undercurrent that devalues everybody else but white men. And I am sorry that I have, touched on this subject, because I am not somebody, like I said in my newsletter, I am somebody who comes from heavenly origins, and I do not have any racial biases. I will point out the issues that my black family has done, okay? And I have no problem doing that. I have had problems with black people. I am here to be a judge of what is going on. I have no bias whatsoever. I am telling people, and I don't have any sort of leaning, and this is the sort of leadership that should be occurring, to have no biases, preferably, okay? So this is why I'm saying this, okay? I recall, seeing videos of these women talking about, what's been going on and their interactions. And there was this one girl that I saw this morning. I do not remember her name. I think I saw it on Facebook. She was talking about how she's been noticing people walking up and asking her strange questions, okay? Strange questions that don't really lead to any, or not meant to have any more dialogue than just the question, or the, it sounds like, that they're kind of fishing for something, or they're trying to create some sort of social order, okay? And then, like I said, I liked her response, because I guess she wears a lot of sweatshirts or something like that. And the person comes up to her and says, "Oh, you wear a lot of sweatshirts." So, because I know in my situation, when I was being trafficked, targeted, or whatever, they would come up and say a lot of things about my clothes, and they'll even go so far to compliment your clothes. Now, I will say, when people are envious of you, or they have a plot, sometimes it's hidden by a compliment. It's a fake compliment, but it's just meant to intimidate you, and it's also a way of them slightly, covertly, in a roundabout way, trying to take a dig at you and make you feel and sense a certain form of anxiety. This is the truth, okay? So anyway, this guy comes up to her and says something about her sweatshirt. And so she comes up with this response, which I thought was really clever. She said, when somebody comes up and asks you these questions, her response was, why, do you need fashion advice? I thought that was clever. You know what I mean? To shut these people down. And this is what I'm suggesting you do if you're dealing with this. You need to shut this covert operation down. If in any element of it. And I'm not saying that you can't be friendly to people, but I'm just telling you, there's a lot of weird stuff that's going on right now. Okay? And we need to open our eyes to it. And a lot of times, it's these people pretending to be certain people, or concerned about you, just like they came in and they infested my family. Okay, that's what they did. So right now, you need to make sure that you hold on to your family, and you need to restructure your family to where, you guys are a support system to each other, instead of imploding in on each other. That's important, okay? There is no family values. I'm getting very, very cold right now. I feel like there's angels around me. Anyway, you need to protect your family, okay? Because they often work in ways where they are meant to destroy your family. Also, I've been getting an intuitive message, a very strong intuitive message, that the Department of Human Trafficking needs to be on their toes right now. Okay? They really do. And, I don't know exactly what their plans are. I don't know how they handle, or the protocol. And see, this is what really concerns me, because, when it comes to, it would be great if I was not so socially isolated. You know what I mean? Because really, I should be interviewing people from the Department of Human Trafficking, and asking these people, what exactly are you doing about this issue? What are you doing about, but see, the thing is, the Department of Human Trafficking, a lot of these people have dual allegiances. And this is a concern, okay? Because the Department of Human Trafficking could be working with the Mormon Church, or some other religious organization. This is what I'm telling you. This is how toxic this sort of stuff is, okay? To where it, oh wow, hang on a second, I'm getting a message, hang on. Okay. So anyway, I'm sorry, the message can wait, but I was getting a message. about this issue, but this is a very important issue. You know, when people are targeted or trafficked, these people will literally have people out on the street who do not deserve it. These people will do things to you in order for you to comply, okay? Because, you know, it can get really bad. It can get very bad. There's a lot of things going on now. I didn't realize until I didn't put it two and two together. Like I said, you know, I've always been blind to politics, meaning I shut it all down because, you know, I found that it was nothing more than disturbing. This to me, okay. But I would say in the last few months I've been paying more attention, okay, and it is very creepy and very disturbing that, you know, we have our country is established on such a brilliant system, meaning understanding the importance of our needs, of our fulfillment, okay, and yet we have these things where we've got religions that want to sit here and demolish that. And see, when we play with religion like this, it's like it puts pressure on people because, you know, there used to be a thing called the divine right of kings. Okay, this is another reason why the United States was established separately from England at that time, because the divine right of kings is a very dangerous thing. Okay, which they realized that it was okay over time, because people would think that your word is like the authority, and they would use it to abuse people through the guise of religion. Okay, so they understood this, and they didn't want that for this country. Okay, they did not want that kind of abuse. So, but somehow religion tends to creep its ugly head into the system anyway. Okay, and they do that because people are ignorant. Okay, and I would say that the school systems do kind of contribute to that because they don't talk about things like cults. And you know why? Because some of the school systems must be in some way compliant to this sort of stuff. Okay, and this is why I'm telling you, education does matter. It does matter. It's not so much the education, it's the indoctrination that could actually occur that's making this stuff happen. Now, I know growing up, I knew good and well, like by the time I was in elementary school, that, you know, what the United States was meant to be established as, and throughout high school, my adult years, I already knew, and this is one of the reasons why I walked around confident knowing that I had every right to do what I wanted to do. And you are not going to shut it down. You can sit here and bring up religion, and you know, my response was, you know, religion is supposed to be separate from church. It's church and state. They don't mix. I already knew that. Okay? And I do recall that theme and that what do you call it? That lesson being taught in the school system at that time. Okay, and it was repeated throughout different. I'm going to tell you, a lot of things in the school system, in the public school system, is repeated stuff. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people who are intelligent get really pissed off. Like I told you, they have threw the diagram, the English sentence in my face so many times in school. I had that in grade school. They threw it at me again in junior high, and they were like inundating it with me. To me in high school. Okay, we know this is sort of stuff, but a lot of people don't. They just put it in maybe a different subject or throw it somewhere else around to where it's like, okay, I remember this. Okay, and it's boring me. Okay, but anyway, but still, it was repeated. The idea of our freedoms was still repeated even in my high school years. I remember this. Okay, so even though, like for example, maybe if for example, okay, like a Mormon kid who went through the same school system that I did throughout, like, you know, the grade school years, okay, and then they might go to a college like BYU and be told something different about the government or the system or the setup, or they might just start being indoctrinated or forget the things that they learned before or whatever. You know what I mean? There's obviously some issue with retention. The retention of memory, or the fact that there's something overriding what people already learned, and that could very well be their higher level education system. That's what I'm thinking. But anyway, what else do I want to say? Yes, I believe that divinely they created, or they what do you call it? The Nazi experiment brought me back, right? From 1956, and I came back in 1971. They brought me back as an experiment, but I am who I am. I'm King Solomon. I'm true to my word. You know what I mean? Meaning, like, you know, I've obviously dealt with these people in my past lives as CB Braganza and so on and so forth, and I'm still not on board with that plan. I'm still not on board with it. I mean, I'm on board with people who who are leaving the Mormon Church, or if the Mormon Church wants to reconstruct themselves and stop being the terrorists that they are, right? That does not mean I want to join them. I'm just saying I would definitely want to have peace with these people. I'm just saying is that, you know, it's a false religion is basically what I'm saying, okay? And another false religion would be, you know, any religion that does what they just did, okay? Meaning like, and that's not to say that churches that created or had made mistakes cannot learn and move forward if they are sincere and if they are humble or whatever. I'm just saying is the road that it's on is very, it's terrible, you know? I don't believe that clones are, I do believe clones were inspired or created because of the influence of the archons, which, you know, in my newsletter, the fourth quarter, I do believe that the messages that I got, and I do recall also reading about how these aliens were actually in physical form. Archons, I do remember like the story in the Bible, I was thinking about that this morning, where when they had mixed with the daughters of men, and during the flood, the people died, but the angelic forces, you know, flew back to where they went, meaning that they abandoned they abandoned their creation, okay? And this is exactly what I do believe happened with the archons. The archons are meant to be silly. They were meant to create chaos, okay? And so what they did was the whole cloning thing is they created all these chaotic people, right? And all this other stuff, and then they abandoned, meaning like, you know, they created, but they did not guide, they did not lead, and they did not instruct. Everything that they have created on the earth has been destructive. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, but if the earth dwellers do love the monetary system, then the monetary system could continue on, meaning, and you know, with retailers, but it's probably going to have to start in another form. Like, you know I did not, okay, initiate the economic blackouts and the boycotts or anything like that, okay, because obviously I'm not the only person who's experienced, you know, the trafficking, the bullying, the DEI issue. This is a big issue, okay? So, but I did realize that it is connected to me. I am a part of it because of this underground current, this underground syndicate, whatever. Okay, but there's a lot of money to be made in the fashion industry. There's a lot of money to be made in makeup. There's a lot of money to be made in hair, desk ornaments, everything that these people, you know, didn't like about me. There's a lot of money to be made into it, okay? This could keep the economy going. Because people need to invest more in themselves, okay? And I will say that, you know, it's not about, okay, I do believe that there should be a certain amount of humility, okay? And there should be an amount of self-confidence. I don't believe that people should be arrogant, but they should have a good sense of self, okay? You should be confident, okay? But you do not want to be boastful, you do not want to be prideful, and you don't need to be materialistic. Okay, I think there's a balance. There's balance, okay, and that's what I'm talking about. Speaking of balance, you know, when I look at the picture of spy versus spy, the black and the white, that is kind of like a balance thing, you know, it's kind of cool. I like the image of spy versus spy. Anyway, so I do hope that women that people will look more into the employment law or abide by it more. I think it's the law is created to protect our rights. And, you know, if people were more focused on law, the society, I believe, would run better. It would run better, okay? I do believe that there are certain people in our society that may be in too deep, meaning like it's too, they really probably would not survive moving forward into the new earth, the new order. Why? Because some of these people are extremely dependent, meaning dependent on other people, through forced labor, through whatever, okay, and that is a problem, you know, and that would include people who are like generational welfare recipients who do not have any desire or whatever to better themselves, okay. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, I know. No, I do realize, and I got the message that that there was a lot of experts who were put to shame, and that they were just kind of fronting. But they do recognize that I am the real deal, meaning like I know there was a lot of people who were involved in my targeting who at first thought that this was a fun and game type thing. So they had like the lawyers shut me out. They had all these other people. And no, I don't respect the lawyers that shut me out. I don't respect the lawyers that were influenced to participate in this underground syndicate and affiliate with a religion that would be what do you call it? Do such a thing. The thing is that when they talk about integrity, that's what I hate. I absolutely hate it when they use integrity in like mission statements. As a matter of fact, that's another thing that triggers me. Why? Because it's like we live in such a world where everybody is such a liar, and so they all use words that try to make themselves look. They use these words on purpose, okay? And it's like it's overused. And every time I see people saying that they have integrity, I'm like, no, you don't. You have no concept of what that is. Not really. But anyway, uh, but yeah, I mean, I noticed that a lot of so-called professionals are professional, just by title only or only on the surface. Like when we talk about things like employment law, a lot of employment lawyers are surface level employment lawyers. They will be bought and sold, or somebody who is manipulated by these sort of underground syndicates as well, which makes me say, hey, I don't think that they are reliable or somebody who I would use as or rely upon for counsel. Um, yes, I am a single woman, and it is not an act of defiance. I am a victim of their orchestration. You know what I mean? Isn't that convenient? But yeah, that's basically how it is. And I am a single woman, and I'm somebody who's very concerned about, you know, uh, being able to survive in a system that is based on human slavery. Um, and that's exactly what it is. It's human slavery. It's human trafficking. I don't care. I mean, and yes, I would say a lot of people are enslaved, okay, by these sort of, this sort of system, and this needs to stop. And this is how you stop it. Be aware of what people are saying and be polite, okay. I am talking about social etiquette in it because social etiquette to me, in the moral research, social etiquette to me is our way of having kind of a protection shield. I mean, you may not see it this way, but it does protect you from being blameless. Protect you and makes you blameless. Like for example, you don't want to be. You greet people and you're accommodating to you. You say your please, your thank you. You greet people accordingly, right? You've done nothing wrong. Okay, if they respond to you in a certain way, then you have the polite response. Okay, even if they're trying to dig at you, they can't get at you because everything that you've done, you behaved in the way that is appropriate, so you can't be blamed for anything. Social etiquette is not just about being polite, it's also about protection, being blameless. Okay, anyway, yes, Mormons have no legal right over me or anyone else for that matter. Okay, and really, I do know, I was looking up, religious abuse laws. I used to have law books in my house, right? But now the internet makes things so much more easy, and I will say I used to be such a textbook junkie that I had to get rid of some stuff. But yeah, I mean, it does make it a lot easier to have access to that information on the internet. It's widely publicized. And no, Mormons do not have legal right. But this is what I'm saying about education. They might have been indoctrinated in their school system to think that they do. You know what I mean? Or it might be some sort of way spoken or discussed with these people, much like the example of me talking about the boy who was actually praying but saying the Pledge of Allegiance, right? People need to have a clear-cut view of their boundaries, okay? And they've overstepped them. Christianity and pretty much all religions are man-made, okay? And by saying that, that is in no way me saying that there is no God. We know that there is a God, okay? All the stuff that's going on right now, yes, there is a God, okay? There is. It's just that, everybody has their view of things, and some people have a vision of God, and then they share that vision with God to other people, and then they create what they call a religion, okay? And they have little guidelines that they choose to follow, and habits and rituals that, that are exclusive to them. And that's really all there is, okay? And sometimes ego plays a huge role in certain denominations and religion in general. And they tend to bully other people because they want to prove that they're more powerful. It is not the kind of power of, believe it or not, uh, blessings. And it's really not just about power and being enslaving people. That is not it. I will tell you, as somebody who is supposed to be the chosen one, I wish for people to have their freedom. I wish for people to be happy. I wish for people to wake up and enjoy what they do. You know what I mean? It is. I have no idea of or dream or desire to bully people or feel like it's a cool thing for me to squash out people's dreams. I want people to feel completeness and wholeness. That is the whole. That is the most beautiful thing that you can ever experience. That's really why. And what makes you a winner in life. Okay, so I've never wished that on anybody, but we do have some religions that do believe in this sort of dominion of controlling people, destroying people, and that's not good. Okay. um so yeah, I mean, like, use discernment when you're in your communications with people. Do talk with your family about the protection in your home, and make sure that you protect your loved ones. I was thinking today, there are certain things that that to me are more immoral. You know what I mean? Immoral is to me like when you harm other people. But I was thinking, this message came to me today is like there really is no such thing as sin. There's only disappointing or just displeasing man, meaning like, the kind of control that people try to exert over other people is really something more of a competition between their way of living and your way of living. As long as you're living within the guidelines of the law, you know, um, you really have the right to do what you want to. I do think a lot about things like relating to the afterlife. I will tell you, there was just recently, a few months ago, there was a lot of souls that left the earth, and they were of different races and of different religions. Okay, so I don't believe that, hell is here. This is where we are. We are in hell right now. This is what hell is. Okay, so the idea of the new earth or the new world order is to convert hell and trying to make it more heavenly. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video sometime.